Hello. Today we're going to talk about the history of photography. Color and digital photography has its roots in over centuries of work from various uh, points of time. In the 11th century, the Latin word for darkroom came about, known as camera obscura. This is a natural optical phenomenon that takes place even to today. Imagine this box right here at the inside of your house, and the exterior wall of your house has a small hole right here. Now, under the right conditions, on a good sunny day, if somebody was walking outside your house, through this tiny little hole, an image of the outside world would be projected on the inside of your house, and it would be upside down. For instance, this is a camera obscura from the Royal Palace at the Prague Castle. Here's a stairwell. Here's the interior wall, and projected on the wall is a scene from the outside world. As you can see, it's upside down. This is also known as a pinhole camera or a pinhole image because the hole is very tiny in most cases, and the light refracting, bouncing off of the subject on the outside world basically bounces onto the wall and then makes its way through the tiny hole and then projects itself on the opposite wall. In the 13th century, Albertus Magnus discovered silver nitrate. Magnus noted that the resulting solution of silver nitrate could blacken skin. It would change color in some ways. In the 16th century, Georgius Fabricius discovered silver chloride. Later, this chemical compound would be used to make photographic paper. In the 17th century, Wilhelm Homberg discovered how light darkens some chemicals, and this is called the photochemical effect. Johann Heinrich Schulze in the 18th century accidentally discovered that a slurry of chalk and nitric acid into which some silver particles had been dissolved was darkened by sunlight. In the 18th century, this is the basis of how traditional darkroom photography was born. But it wasn't until 1826 that the first permanent photograph was made, and it was known as a heliograph. This is the view from a window at La Grasse. Niépce discovered this. He took several images from the window or from his room. It's also known as the oldest image known from a camera. So basically, it was using the pinhole photography or pinhole image of using the camera obscura and covered up the window and basically put a pinhole there and then put the substrate on the back wall. It's a slightly piece of metal, if I remember correctly. And you can see here the general outline of some buildings. Now, through digital enhancement, you can see more of the positive shape of it. You can see the building here and the rooftops. And I'll give you an example of what was enhanced. It was inside this red area right here. And you can see both images. I'll go back and forth. You can see how it appears and lines up. But it wasn't until 1837 that Louis Daguerre took all of Niépce's work and advanced it into what is known as a daguerreotype. You can see the technology is pretty rough. This is all chemicals that are painted onto the surface of a substrate. In this case, is another metal plate. You can see the detail is much finer and refined. You can even see a person here standing on the sidewalk. And in 1839, William Henry Fox Talbot discovered the calotype process. It's basically a translucent original negative from which multiple positives could be made by simple contact printing. So before Fox Talbot discovered the calotype, every picture was one picture only. So with the daguerreotype, it's only one image, and that's all you get, no copies. So everything was pretty much on the substrate itself, and you couldn't make duplicates of it. But Daguerre or Fox Talbot came along and introduced the calotype process. And this is what we now know as a negative. It's a little piece of plastic and basically has the image in reverse, so you don't see it as in what you would see in a regular detail. And from there, you can actually transform it back to be a positive, so you would see it in its full glory. But in 1861, Thomas Sutton made the first durable color photograph using 3 sets of black and white photographs, taken through a red, green, and blue filter. Then taking those 3 separate images in red, green, and blue and sandwich them on top of each other creates what you would see as a color image. Now, later on, we're going to talk about the red, green, and blue spectrum, which is how all color photography is done today. Hauron, or Ducos du Hauron, further took the work of Thomas Sutton and basically advanced it in 16 years and started making what's called the heliochrome, or a dichromated pigment gelatin process. So the gelatin is something that's a chemical substrate that you put onto a substrate, like a calotype or a negative, and then you take 3 pictures of a scenery, and then you sandwich it on top of each other. And from that, you get to see the entire scene in full color as you would see it with your naked eye. If you look here, there is the green, a green film here, a red film down here, and a little bit of the blue film down here. So when you take these 3 different layers, you have to make sure that they're perfectly aligned in order to be able to see the image properly, or it's going to look out of alignment. The Sergey Prokudin-Gorsky from 1909 to 1915 was pioneering the color work of photography and was documenting early Russia during that period. This is a self-portrait of him, and he would basically take the same ideas, and this is the advancement of technology, and he would basically make these photographs and sandwich it on top of each other to make the full image appear. I want to quickly go over to a website real quick, and this is some of the work that he did. Prokudin-Gorsky was a man who had affluence, so he had the money to purchase all of this. He purchased all the equipment and decided to go set off into Russia, into the countryside, and to see what the rest of Russia looked like. He was from Moscow, and so he wanted to see the diversity that was out in the countryside. As you can see here, there are very superbly colored images. The technology was so advanced at the time that you can make these beautiful colors. The only downside was you have to actually remain still, because if you were to move in any one of these photographs, because he's taken 3 of them, you would catch a ghost movement. So like for instance, right back here, there's somebody here with a blue, and then there's a red filter. There's somebody that just moved a little bit. This would take about anywhere between like up to a minute to take a photograph, all 3 photographs. So any slight movement will cause it to ghost a little bit in different colors. I'll show you some of my favorite images. The skies are wonderful. You can see like the brush marks are a little gnarly there, but the colors are vibrant. This is a part of Russia that most people in Moscow did not see. So he was doing like reportage, documentary work of what the other parts of Russia uncommonly seen. Back to the slideshow. So this is the other image that can kind of show you the idea. Here's again 3 different images on the left. They're all in black and white, but the difference is the colors. Like if you look at the outfit here, there's different renderings of the image, and they're all, once you sandwich them all on top of each other, you get the full color of the filters. You can see the red, blue, and the green, and different layers that are on top of each other. And I think the big question is, what is photography going to look like 20 years from now? We have digital cameras. We have cameras in every single device that we have, from computers, handheld, tablets, cameras themselves. They're small, they're large. And I think the big question is just to kind of think about what will happen in 20 years. I think that cameras will be cameras are already built into glasses. That was the Google Glass. That was a few years ago. I think that technology is probably going to advance even further. Maybe the camera would just be in your finger, and all you have to do is point and say take a picture, and your finger takes a picture. It'd be amazing what technology will do 20 years from now. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or and just let me know, and then we can talk about this. Thanks.